It was a disaster last time. It was a disaster this time.
Attention.
Cut off halfway last time. Cut off part of the way through probably here.
Your coffee.
I'll try.
All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Gird Your Loins. I'm here again with Noah. And today we're going to talk about Christmas movies. In particular, we want to talk about It's a Wonderful Life. It's a Wonderful Life happens to be my favorite Christmas movie. Not just my favorite Christmas movie. It's probably one of my favorite movies. Like, definitely top 10 movies all time. Maybe one or two. I don't know. It's between that and Mad Max Fury Road for me. I don't even have to think about it.
The plot in that movie.
It's fantastic. Are you
They
kidding
just
me?
drive and then they dare to turn left and then they go back.
Yeah. Everything about that movie is fantastic. I like when people are like, "What's your favorite movie?" I just say Mad Max Fury Road, without a doubt, with a shot.
Refuses to elaborate. Leaves.
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. None of that matters. You know, for all the people who criticize, like, oh, there wasn't enough dialogue, like, who cares? Everything is clear. You just watch it, and it's clear. The plot's clear. Everything about the movie's clear. You know, it doesn't have to be fancy to be the best movie ever. It just has to have a blind person with a guitar with flames shooting out of it. And the most incredible cinematography I've ever seen in my life. Colors,
and almost entirely practical effects.
All the practical effects, and just the artistry of it, just the colors of everything. Anyway, enough about Mad Max Fury Road. I could do a whole show on Mad Max Fury Road and why it's the greatest movie of all time. But we're going to talk about It's a Wonderful Life. But I forgot my notes, and so my wife is on her way to bring me the notes, and she'll get here at some point. And then we'll talk about that. But we've each made a list of...
We've checked it twice.
I've checked. Wow, that was good.
I didn't even think
on.
of that before. So.
Yeah. We made a list of our favorite Christmas movies, which for us is a stretch because we act like Noah and I aren't really... Yeah, we're both curmudgeons when it comes to Christmas. We don't have a lot of favorite Christmas movies. This is the Christmas... most Christmassy outfit I have. It says Frothy the Snowman. He's got all of his beer, but it just looks like his name is Rothy from this angle. And then
if I had thought about it, I have
my winter cat.
I have a Christmas vacation shirt, but didn't think to wear it. So
Yeah, this was like a last minute thing. I saw the hat on my dresser and I thought, you know what? I'm doing Christmas stuff. We'll wear the Christmas gear. You don't have any Christmas things you could have worn?
I have one thing, but it's animated the chainsaw scene from Christmas Vacation.
Chainsaw Christmas Vacation. When does he have a chainsaw?
He runs to like cut, I think, a tree down, but he ends up like cutting off the power to their house. Like that whole thing.
I did that. That is all right. So we've got our top 10 list. Or do you have 10? You don't have 10.
I have 5.
You have 5. That's how much we like Christmas. We managed to get 15 movies for a top 20 list.
Out of at least 100.
Because I was stretching, okay, and looking for Christmas movies I actually like, and then maybe we'll mention movies that didn't make our lists because they're terrible, even though everybody likes them, and we can poop all over those movies. So number 10 I have on here is Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, like the little stop motion things. If for anything, just because when I was a kid, is like if it was on, I was like thrilled to death to see the stop motion. That was cool. Then and I guess like the miner guy was cool. He's always digging for silver or something, or he was looking for gold. I don't know. It's hard to remember, but there's been like a lot of really great spoofs off of that. I think the Babylon Bee just did that one where Rudolph renamed himself.
Yeah,
And he's trans now.
Rudolina or whatever, and he dominates the female reindeer games.
Yeah. Number 9 I have is National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. It's a comedy, it's not really much of a Christmas. It does have like a Christmassy feel-good thing to it. And, as far as like a National Lampoon movie goes, I think it's a pretty solid movie all the way throughout, And for a comedy, that's hard. I think it's tough for comedies when they do comedies that to have it be strong all the way throughout the whole movie.
Right.
A lot of comedy, I think they run into the Adam Sandler problem, where he's got a funny gag, he's got a funny premise, or funny voice. Yeah, he's got some funny premise. Like you got Happy Gilmore. He's a golfer that used to be a hockey player. And so it's like a Saturday Night Live skit.
They just keep making the same joke.
And like they run out the gag and they run out of funny things to do. And then at some point they're like, oh no, we're making a movie. This has to actually go somewhere. We actually have to like wrap this up some way. We have to like have a plot. And
the plot like happens halfway through.
Yeah. And then, well, they kind of set it up in the beginning, but then it's like, oh, they have to have like the sporting event happen, or like Billy Madison, he like has to win the competition or something. Not many funny things happen throughout that. So, but National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, I think it avoids that. I think it's a pretty strong movie. It keeps your attention. You were just making fun of it. Nightmare Before Christmas. That's my number 8. It had some good songs and stuff like that. I think it's probably one of Tim Burton's better films. That he's made, even though it's like the most Tim Burton-y thing that Tim Burton has ever done.
Have you seen Ed Wood?
Yes, I have. Yeah.
In my mind, that's
the most Tim Burton thing.
It's the most Tim Burton thing and the best Tim Burton thing. Just because it has Johnny Depp in it, I think it edges out Nightmare Before Christmas as the most Tim Burton thing. Because he has him in everything.
You think Johnny Depp's not in Nightmare Before Christmas?
No, I know he is.
Oh. Is he? I don't know. I was guessing. I would assume that he is.
I would assume so too. But
like somewhere. I mean,
I know in the sense that it's a Tim Burton thing, so I know he's there.
He's got to be a voice for some character.
But I mean, Ed Wood stars in like every single Tim Burton thing.
Yeah. Die Hard. I got my number 7. We're just gonna run through these real quick because I got to catch up to Noah's only got 5. I'll just say Die Hard and Gremlins together. So I have my 7 and 6. They're not really Christmas movies. I mean, like, people are stretching to make Die Hard a Christmas movie, but
that is my favorite Christmas movie. So
apparently, I found Noah's number 1. But I'll leave that. Is that on your list?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Okay. Then you can talk about that. Yeah, Gremlins is another. It happens during Christmas, but it's a monster movie. And it's a good monster movie. Gremlins is a solid movie. I mean, it's got a good hero, good plot. The whole movie keeps your attention. It doesn't fall apart anywhere really. I got so all right. Go ahead. You're number 5. What's your number 5?
Jingle All the Way.
Okay.
Have you seen that?
I've seen enough of it that I think I get the plot. I don't think I've actually sat down and watched Jingle All the way through, but that's the one with Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yep.
And Shazam.
You mean Anakin Skywalker right before he did Boy Anakin Skywalker?
Oh, is that? No,
That's
no.
who his kid is.
No, I mean, who's the other fella in opposite Arnold Schwarzenegger?
Oh yeah. I don't remember.
It's terrible. Comedian. He used to be like the big. Well, you know, the Shazam thing was like they thought everybody's like, I remember this movie that had this guy in it, and it was like a genie or something. It wasn't. No, it never got made. It wasn't ever a thing. But
Right.
who's the opposite?
I gotta check.
Oh, you tell me what you like about the movie, and then and I'll look it up.
Well, I've only seen it like twice, and I'm not big on Christmas movies in general. And I was trying to get to 5, and it was that or look up something. But yeah.
I got it. Keep going.
Yeah. It's I don't know. It's a decent, like, just standard, like
Sinbad.
Oh yeah.
I'm sorry, Sinbad, because he's probably a big fan of the show.
But yeah, I mean, Jingle All the Way is a pretty normal, like, Christmas movie, but it's in the sense that, like, I don't know many people who would just hate the movie.
Sure.
So it's I mean, other than that, I've got Christmas Vacation because it's obligatory.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot
And
of
it's
good
good.
scenes in that. Yeah, it's got Christmas Vacation has, and what do they like? They try to recreate that scene with the turkey dinner and the family around the table, and it's shot like that. Like he's standing at the end of the table, like a famous painting, and Dad's there to cut the thing, and of course it all falls apart. So there's a lot of like classic stuff in Christmas Vacation that just really just brings Christmas to your mind, and then just kind of mocks it. Of course, the hanging lights. Like who can hang lights in their house without thinking of Christmas Vacation? So my number 5 is Charlie Brown Christmas. I think it's a good. I mean, the Charlie Brown stuff is kind of boring. Really. Oh, look, my secretary has arrived to bring me my notes. Thank you, honey.
You're welcome.
I appreciate you.
Bye.
You're great.
Thanks.
Slam. And the cool thing about it is that Linus at the end of it gives like a straight out of the Bible.
Right out of Luke.
Yeah, right out of Luke Christmas story. I mean, who can beat that? I mean, like, whatever else I say about all these Christmas movies, I mean, Charlie Brown Christmas essentially nails Christmas. All those Charlie Brown cartoons are really poor. They really are. I mean, they got like kid actors that really can't act. They can't really deliver their lines very well.
The same jokes.
Yeah, the animation's not very good. And the Peanuts isn't really all that funny. Anyway, I'm probably hurting somebody's feelings right now by saying that. But it's not Family Circus. It's funnier than Family Circus. And you could say like it's funnier. Peanuts is funnier than Marmaduke because everything is funnier than Marmaduke. Everything. There's nothing on the planet that isn't funnier than Marmaduke. You could find humor in everything but Marmaduke. That comic
Schindler's
is so
List is
dumb.
funnier
Oh,
than
for
Marmaduke.
sure. Oh yeah, come on. Like that's a laugh a minute compared to Marmaduke. I'm glad you said Schindler's List because I was gonna say the Holocaust, but you said
I brought it to
Schindler's List.
something
and
that's, like, about the same thing.
It's a movie, and I really appreciate you doing that so that I didn't have to say the Holocaust. So, but yeah, that's how I feel about Peanuts. It's definitely funnier than Marmaduke, but that's not saying much. But Linus does give the Christmas story, and Peanuts is wholesome. It might not be funny, but it's definitely wholesome. All right, what's your number 4?
Home Alone.
It's my number 4 too. Definitely, yeah. And now, is that your number 4 just because you didn't have anything else to put there, or was it?
It's my number 4 because it is one of my favorite movies, and I always forget that it is a Christmas movie.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
which is why I think it's such a good Christmas movie.
Yeah.
Is because when you watch it, you can watch it anytime, and it doesn't feel like a Christmas
Yep.
movie. But then if you watch it around Christmas, you're like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
and then it feels like a Christmas movie.
Yeah.
So
And one of that movie, was that a 90s movie? That was a 90s movie.
I think so.
Yeah, I think
it was maybe it was late 80s.
late 80s, early 90s, something like that. I mean, like you were saying, it's a good
1990.
1990. Okay, so it's about as late 80s as you can get.
Yeah, it wasn't the 90s until 93. So.
Yeah. So, yeah, like I said, it's a good movie, whether it's a Christmas movie or not. And it's a good movie despite Macaulay Culkin. Like, he's competent as a kid actor, but like, it's funny. I watch older movies with kid actors, and they're actually kind of poor. And like, more modern kid actors seem to have a lot more
Which is saying something.
talent. Yeah, which is saying something. But they seem to have a lot more talent. They seem to deliver the lines a lot better. I take that. I don't know, like Corey Feldman and like those guys, like the Stand By Me cast. They were good. I take
Just
that.
everyone that was involved with Jackson, I guess.
Yeah.
You're gonna go that route.
Yeah. No, well, but I mean, like the Stand By Me, like that was a good movie. That was kid actors. So there were some good. But Macaulay Culkin is very young when he makes this movie, and but he's not really like the reason why it's good. It's good because it's a really well produced movie. There's things set up, in the beginning that end up panning out in the end. You got all your acts in there. You've got good funny villains, and if you're looking to make people laugh, like the movie's gonna make people laugh. And of course, as a kid, you're watching it and you're like, this is like every kid's not dream. You don't want to be like assaulted by burglars while your parents aren't home, but
by the wet bandits.
yeah, by the wet bandits. But you're definitely thinking, as a kid, you're thinking like contingency plans, because they've always got you doing fire drills and stuff like that in school. So you always have to have your contingency plans.
That stuff made me as a kid always try to sit near the door, because it like scared me so much that something was going to happen.
Fire drills?
Well, just all sorts of like the fire drill things. The like, what are you going to do if there's like a shooting that happens?
Oh yeah, we didn't have that when I was a kid.
I mean, I didn't. That kind of stuff happened where at every like thing that I went to, because I was homeschooled, so it didn't happen at my school,
Right.
but
Yeah,
it happened at like every like summer camp thing I would go to, every like really extracurricular thing that I would go to. It was like, hey, this is what the plan is for a fire. This is what the plan is for an active shooter. This is what the plan is for whatever. And that kind of thing always made me, like, as a kid, feel like I need to know where the door is, and I need to sit near it.
You're like some guy that just got back from the war.
I'm not anxious like that anymore, but as a child.
Living in the bush, and you're paranoid about, you got to have your back to the wall.
Yeah.
You're like,
Firecrackers scared
windows.
me.
Yeah. But yeah, Home Alone's great. I mean, Home Alone, it really hits the spot, and it does. It gives you that that subplot with the old man, right? The guy with the shovel at the end, who you knew he was going to turn out to be a sweet old man, but that was satisfying. Him coming to save the day, really, and smashing them with the shovel. So yeah, that movie is like, everything in that movie is Chekhov's gun. Everything, like the spider set up, all those little things that he sets up. Everything, like, think of how preposterous that is. Every single trap that he lays works. They fall right into every. There's no wasted space. Every single thing he did worked. It was like, oh man, I set up all these traps on the other side of the house, but they broke in. They were all on the east side of the house, but they all broke in on the west side of the house, and they just never worked out. So
You ever noticed that when he burns his hand, that the letter burns in the wrong way.
No, really?
Their last name was McAllister, right?
Right.
M? Yeah. So unless he's grabbing the doorknob like the straight up this way, which I think in the shot he grabs it that way,
Oh,
like
really?
a normal person.
Right, right.
When he brings it back up, it's an M facing him.
Right.
It shouldn't be. It should be a W.
Oh,
So,
yeah. I guess you're right. Yep. Oh, my. And then he shoots people with his gun. But, yeah. Great movie. And, you know what? We should have said this weekend. If you haven't seen these movies, you should. And then if you want to see these movies, then don't listen to what we're talking about because we'll probably give stuff away. But we didn't give much away in Home Alone. The kid doesn't get killed. Sorry to break it for you. So, your number 3. What's your number 3 you got?
I just had to change it while looking over Christmas movies as a joke, but I think it actually might be Batman Returns.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. I can't honestly say I've seen Batman Returns. Is that the one with the penguin and Catwoman?
Yeah, you mean Danny DeVito?
Yeah, with Danny DeVito. I never saw it. Yeah.
It's probably still the best Batman movie.
Really?
Because it's got the cheesy vibe to it.
Right.
Which Batman movies
Hey,
probably
Tim
should
Burton
have.
made the list again.
I know, right?
Yeah.
And it's got the same Home Alone vibe to it, where it's like, oh yeah, this happens around Christmas. So it's got the somewhere in between in my mind, Die Hard, which is like, for some people, it's like this is not a Christmas movie, and for some people, it absolutely is.
Yeah.
And then Home Alone, where it's like, you can watch it anytime, but then around Christmas when you watch it, you're like, oh yeah, this is a Christmas movie. It's somewhere in the middle there, where it's like less in your mind, even though it definitely happens around Christmas.
Yeah.
And then, but like, I don't think a whole lot of people are going, oh, yeah, that technically it's got the same Die Hard vibe of being a Christmas movie if you like really think about all the subplot stuff that goes on. So, I mean, that one, it's just a good movie.
Batman Returns. Okay. Oh, speaking of Home Alone, though, were you aware that John Candy's polka band in the van? Do you remember what they were called?
No.
They were the Kenosha Kickers.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
That is so fantastic.
Well, that was like one of their names. I forget. They had like
they
a
were
bunch of
Jump
names.
Kick Man.
Yeah.
Kenosha Jump Kickers.
Yeah, I think they were from Kenosha. Those Midwest.
Wait, did the
Kenosha's in
movie
Wisconsin.
take place in Kenosha? Then?
No. They were from Indiana or Illinois or something. One of those I states in the Midwest.
What? One of those.
One of them. I don't know. They're all the same to us. But I think she had to because she kept rerouting her flights, and she ended up. Well, I don't think she was ever in Wisconsin, but the John Candy's group was from Wisconsin. That's why they were a polka group. So that's why it was funny because they're from Kenosha. Which, at the time, it was just a funny name for John Candy to say.
I need that jacket.
Oh, is there? You can buy a Kenosha Kickers? Nice. Kyle Rittenhouse needs that jacket. Jump Kick Man.
I can't believe I'm just learning about this.
Yeah. Yep. So my number 3 is A Christmas Story. I know you don't like A Christmas Story, but I think it's a decent movie. It's another one of those movies.
I know I've committed Christmas movie heresy
I know,
to most
right?
people.
I know. But it's got a lot of that Americana stuff in it that I really like. All that old school stuff.
I think it's just because it's overplayed.
Oh, sure, yeah.
And that's
I
why,
mean, they do a marathon. Like any of these movies, there's probably a channel running a marathon
Right.
on all the time.
And my dad just always puts that one on, and it just throughout my childhood. I think the first time I saw it, it was just a bit. It's kind of an odd. It gives off a weird vibe, especially as a kid. It's like it almost gives off like this weird, scary vibe to it if you're really young.
A Christmas Story?
Yeah, just because it's odd.
Well, that's
it's got this
I
weird
mentioned Chekhov's
tense
gun.
to it.
A Christmas Story is Chekhov's gun, the movie. If you think about it, it really is, and that's one of the things that I like about it is like I was saying before about National Lampoon's movie, like that it's a strong movie all the way throughout, and there's really good scenes throughout the movie, but the movie doesn't lead you somewhere and then just leave you hanging. Like it fulfills everything that it promises you from the get go, and then it just like ramps up in its intensity. It's like, you know, he's constantly talking about this Red Ryder BB gun. Like he definitely, and that's great because like for a Christmas movie, every kid has that experience of like you really want this one particular thing, and there might be that one Christmas where you know, unless your parents were awful, but there was like that one Christmas where you actually got the one thing that you really wanted, and the rest of the time, if your parents were good, they never give you anything that you really wanted. I don't know how you feel. That's how my parents did it. So like when I was growing up, if I even made a Christmas list, I could just that would just essentially be the list of things I wasn't going to get for Christmas. Was my Christmas list. Like the very act of asking for it was like tantamount to begging, which would just result in not getting it. You know what? I'm gonna take this ridiculous hat off because I like look at that. Look I practically blend in with the wall.
It's giving you hat hair.
Huh?
Is it giving you hat hair?
No, but my face is like glowing.
It was a joke.
This is better. So I don't have like a professional studio or something. I need something to like knock the light down, cause like or like a better whatever, because it's so bright in here. My headphones. But there we go. Now I don't look like a ghost. But yeah, Chekhov's gun, the movie. Yeah, and it's interesting. I've looked up about that movie before, about the time period, and I think it takes place. It's like pre-World War II. I don't think that movie takes place after World War II. So, but then there's like other things about it that seem like it might take place in the 50s or it might take place in the 30s, and it's kind of all over the map with that. But I don't know. There's like a lot of interesting things about the way people lived back then. You know, the dad dealing with the coal heater, like the coal furnace down in the basement and stuff. Things that like people just don't really have a clue about. You know, lots of little things that give you a clue about the time period, like the Wizard of Oz characters at the parade, and then in the shopping mall and stuff. There's like Wizard of Oz everywhere. So that stuff's all neat, you know. And it's like one of those. I don't know if it came out before the Wonder Years or if it was you know, around the same time. There was a lot of those movies where there was like a narrator narrating his life as a kid. Like that was a big movie device at that time. So yeah, they milked that for all it's worth. But you know, great actors. The dad was great. Mom was great. The kids, whatever. But everybody, you know, the great scene with him beating up the bully, you know, and the bully just laughing, and then he just can't wait to just punch this guy. So a lot of good fantasy fulfillment in Christmas Story. But everybody knows it. Everybody's seen that movie a bajillion times. But it's a great Christmas movie. Got great Christmas themes. So, how about your number two? What's your number two?
Well, my number two is It's a Wonderful Life.
Oh, all right. That's the worst thing you could have said right now.
Well, you already know Die Hard's my number one.
All right, well, we'll skip that because we're going to talk about that the rest of the time. I've got... well, why don't we do this? Since I've got It's a Wonderful Life as my number one. And so why don't you... since I just talked a bunch about Christmas Story, why don't you talk about Die Hard? Why is that your favorite Christmas movie? And try to justify yourself.
I don't think I need to justify it, but especially because I just noticed that I was over at my fiance's house and she was looking for a movie, and under the Christmas section, the first thing listed there was Die Hard, and
Nice.
it warmed my heart. But Hulu recognized that that it is a Christmas movie. But I don't know. I hadn't seen the movie, which was like for a long time,
Right.
And people were starting to say, "Why have you not seen this movie?" I was like, "Fine, I'll watch it." And just I don't know, it became one of my favorite movies. And whenever what's your favorite like Christmas movie came up, because I'm not huge into Christmas movies in
Right.
general. Knowing that people argued about it being a Christmas movie, I would just say that, and I don't know. The more I've watched it, the more I've noticed. Yeah, I mean, a lot of the sub themes here kind of definitely have that Christmas thing to it. Like the reason they chose that it happens
Yeah.
around Christmas is because a lot of the sub stuff
Yeah, sure.
is very Christmassy,
Yep.
which is why I think it's a perfect movie. But
Yeah.
I mean, it's not the perfect movie or anything like that, but it's one of those like things where like you could easily miss all that if you're just a
Right.
popcorn
Yeah.
zombie. But like
Well, there's a lot of good movies like that. Where you could say it's a perfect movie. I mean, it's like a lot of guys that are like you know, pop 80 movie buff guys. They'll say Gremlins.
Right.
Like that's a perfect movie. Or Ghostbusters is a perfect movie. And it's not because
I haven't seen that movie in a long time.
it's really good. And it's not because like every part of the movie is amazing, but like I said, it's strong all the way
Right.
throughout. You know, like every scene is done in with some kind of intention. Like even the music and the sound, like you know, all those things come together and make a really good movie. I think think of a movie that's not like the greatest movie ever, but it's definitely like in the perfect like I always like Hook.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Hook is a really good movie. It's like it's strong all the way throughout. Like there's costume design's great, the music is great, the acting's you know, it's like the acting doesn't need to be amazing. Like not everything needs to be Schindler's List with the acting. Like it just has to get the job done. It just has to be
Not
enough.
everything has to be a comedy all the way through.
Right, yeah.
Like Schindler's List.
Yeah. But like it just everything the actors have to do their job to be believable. That's good enough. It doesn't have to be the most dramatic performance ever. It just has to be what the movie needs. But anyway, you're saying about Die Hard being perfect.
Yeah, I mean, everything you just said. Like it is just I don't know. Like I've just also the fact that like when people are so like, no, that's not a Christmas movie because it's an action film and everything.
Right.
I
Well, then National Lampoon's Christmas
know,
Vacation can't be a Christmas
No,
movie because
like,
it's a comedy. Yeah.
I know, right? And it's like, and I mean, yeah, it's not directly about Christmas, but neither is really any of like. I mean, I don't really think Jingle All the Way is directly about Christmas.
No, not
Like,
really.
I mean, that propels the plot, sure, but like
Right.
it's
all
whole
these
sub-theme,
movies are
yeah.
happening around Christmas.
exactly,
That's
and
the
like,
thing,
and
yeah.
that's why it's so like I don't know, annoying to me when people think
Yeah.
say, "Oh, it's not a Christmas movie."
Yeah.
It's like,
But I mean, think about it. I mean, John McClane, you know, what happened by the end? I mean, he's back together with his wife. You know,
Right.
like he's reunited with his wife. And then the fella from Stephen Urkel's show with the cop.
Oh, yeah.
The cop outside. You know, the whole story about him, you know, shooting somebody, and then you know, never wanting to draw his gun, kind of just being like a drive around cop, give people parking tickets, kind of thing. And then it's like, you know, that whole thing gets resolved. He ends up saving the day at the end and saving John McClane's life because, you know, he was finally willing to, you know, pull his gun and do it. And it's like that's the whole payoff of the movie, really. At the
Right.
end is his story, and
it's really not about John McClane.
no,
at all.
yeah. I mean, like John McClane's there, you know, like Mad Max is there in Fury Road, but it's really about Furiosa. But because everything has.
Everyone's
kind
kind of just there in that movie.
Nah, everybody's got a point. Everybody's got a point, especially the guitar guy.
he's the real hero.
He's the real hero of the movie. That scene is incredible. uh, but what a great movie. I mean, the Hans Gruber getting knocked off the building at the end, the watch, the symbolism, right? The watch getting knocked off the wrist.
Oh,
that is that's sleazy guy was hanging out. Was it where did the watch come from? Was it the
I don't remember. Oh my gosh.
Anyway, the watch
I'm
had
supposed to watch this movie tomorrow night. That's
Oh,
probably
really? So the watch that his wife had on, I thought somebody gave it to her. I didn't think it was him. And then and Gruber's hanging on to that, and then he falls to his death in like one of the greatest fall to your death scenes of all time. Now I've got a machine gun. Another great. Ho ho ho! Now I've got a machine gun.
Yeah. That line by itself is what makes it a Christmas movie.
Well, and the best part is it's what's his face? Alan Rickman.
Yeah.
That delivers the line. Ho ho ho! Now I have a machine gun. But you could just see John McClane writing it in blood, like laughing to himself while he's writing it. Like, this is going to be great. I can't wait till they open the doors. All right. So my number 2, my last one, before we get to It's a Wonderful Life, is A Christmas Carol. Specifically, the Alastair Sim Christmas Carol. So I don't know if you've seen that one or not. It's pretty old. But and I'm not, that's not anything that I'm not like coming from Mars, like bringing some weird selection for top Christmas movies. It's pretty widely accepted that it's the best version of A Christmas Carol.
I have seen that one.
Okay. Yeah. And
I had to look up a shot from it because there's so many different versions.
Oh, sure. Yeah. But this is definitely my favorite one. Obviously A Christmas Carol has really good Christian themes to it. Repentance and forgiveness and, like the change in a person's life. It could be clearer. I mean, cause it's all wrapped around, Christmas, in not so much Christmas is in the sense about Jesus, although in this one, they are a bit clearer about what Christmas is about, and Scrooge is more at the end. He's like attributing it to God and attributing his conversion at the end to Jesus.
Got to be careful with this movie or with this story in general, though, because it's William Lane Craig's go-to illustration for Molinism.
This guy. Clown. Anyway,
it's the first thing he brought up in that debate.
Did he really?
It was the very first thing. He goes, "Could you explain Molinism?" And he goes, "Well, you know the part where he's got the ghost of Christmas
Come on,
future?
do the voice now."
He's got a Jimmy Stewart voice, except pretentious, where Jimmy Stewart wasn't pretentious.
No, Jimmy Stewart's never pretentious. The great thing about Alastair Sim in this is that he's the absolute worst Scrooge. He's the meanest, grouchiest, most bah humbuggest Scrooge that you'll ever see in A Christmas Carol.
No, not that cartoon one.
No.
I hate that one.
And he's also the most joyous. Like at the end of the movie, he's a complete 180. He's completely off his rocker, but he's not like he's not really being silly. He's just incredibly happy, and you can tell like his whole face is different. The way the guy portrays himself as Scrooge, you can just see his whole face and the weight of his just bitterness like hanging on his shoulders the whole time. And then by the end of the movie, it's like it's all off of his back. And he's just totally brightened his look. He's just his face is like just somebody you want to be around, as opposed to Scrooge. Like you don't want to be anywhere near this guy. He's such a jerk. And anyway, that's why. So if you've never seen out the Alistair Sim version of A Christmas Carol, that is definitely something you should see. And then, one of the other cool things about it is that because it's shot so long ago, I don't know if you watched a lot of black and white, like old black and white movies or old black and white horror movies. There's something really cool when they try to do special effects in those movies where they're actually creepier in and not just in black and white, but the quality of the film, or however, like whatever else they were doing practically to make the special effects look real in black and white, it's even weirder. And some of the things that they do in this are just like haunting and weird. Obviously, in Christmas Carol, there's like these ghosts and stuff, so that's really creepy. But I think I remember in the one scene when he talks to the ghost of Christmas Present, and the shot there, even though it's in black and white, it seems like it's in color. Like it seems like stunning and in color, and like the guy is huge, and it's just a really strange way that it's presented in black and white. But totally recommend that. All right. It's a Wonderful Life. Greatest Christmas movie of all time. Your list be damned. Greatest Christmas movie ever. So that's what we're here to talk about. So I started taking notes yesterday, and so yeah. So if you've never seen,
unprepared.
You feel but you did watch it. You
I
watched it
did.
this
I
week,
just mean I didn't take notes.
And so I was just kind of run through the movie and just talk about some of the highlights of it. So yeah, the whole thing starts off. You know how in Star Wars, when if you're ever did you watch Star Wars a lot? Were you like into Star Wars? And the 20th century,
the real ones too.
Yeah, the 20th Century Fox logo comes up and like dum 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 dum. Dun, da, da. Yeah, so that's almost as much of a part of the Star Wars experience as all the Lucasfilm stuff is, in a way, right? So this starts out with this Liberty Films logo. It's got the Liberty Bell. It says like Pace and Stowe on it, so it's definitely the Liberty Bell, and it's like it dong dong dong, and it's like starts the whole Christmas theme and stuff, and so this movie is directed by Frank Capra. Wait, did I say don't listen to this? If you haven't seen this movie, you should definitely watch this movie. Like Tyler Stanhope, for crying out loud, like go watch this movie. It's ridiculous.
Call out.
Honestly, like I don't know. It's like not having seen The Princess Bride.
Yeah.
You
it kind of is. Yeah.
Like you have to, or Monty Python and the Holy Grail. Like get up to speed. You're missing out on so many jokes and references and stuff that people talk about.
I have to email him about something, so I'm gonna email him, and at the very end, I'll be like, "By the way, watch It's a Wonderful Life."
Goodness. So Frank Capra, RKO Films. That's kind of a cool name. RKO. Jimmy Stewart, Donna Reed. I looked up some stuff about them on Wikipedia. So apparently, Frank Capra, he's like an Italian guy, comes to America, becomes like one of the greatest American directors, and
a lot of his movies are about what happened in the Depression with bank runs.
Yep, and which is definitely a theme that comes up in this, and but he was also served. He was in the military also, and he was a colonel. I don't know if he actually served as a colonel or if he later on, but and then Jimmy Stewart, also well known like for serving in the military, and apparently he died as a major general. Ronald Reagan promoted him to major general as a retired officer. So So that's pretty cool. The this movie was the first thing that Jimmy Stewart had done since serving.
Wow.
So this is the first production that he was involved in after the war. So so the movie starts out showing Bedford Falls, showing the town. Bedford Falls is like a huge part of the movie. Just the town, it comes up a ton.
It's a character in its own right.
It is, yep. Not in the way that Mayberry is, where
Right.
like in the Andrew Griffith Show, like Mayberry definitely is a character in the show. The people of Mayberry are a character in the show, but Bedford Falls itself as the town, not just the people, becomes like this character in the show that's kind of got George like trapped in this spot. But the people, it opens up, and it opens up with prayer. We've got prayer in schools again, but we've got it opens up with prayer. So that kind of gives you a good idea of where Capper's coming from. Jimmy Stewart was also a Republican his whole life. I don't know if you knew that, but
I did.
another good reason to like him. And he, so they're praying for him, and it's just like the end of the movie. Really, this is them praying at the end of the movie. Lord, help George. George is in trouble. He needs your help. And then the last one, it's like, God, please help Daddy. Right? You know, we're worried for Daddy. And it shows the house. It's like panning up, and then apparently God lives in space. I don't know if you knew this.
Right. I could never tell if Joseph was an angel or if Joseph was supposed to be Joseph.
Yeah, I don't know.
Especially because the one character does say Jesus, Joseph, and Mary, and then it cuts to three little things, and then the only ones that speak is God and then Joseph.
I don't know that God ever does. God speak in this?
Well, Jesus.
Just Joseph. It's just Joseph and Gabriel.
Is it Gabriel?
Joseph, Gabriel, and Clarence, I think, are the three that are talking.
Really?
I don't think God actually speaks. We'd all be dead.
I thought it was Jesus.
It would kill us. He would speak, and then it would just, our brains would explode. But so I think it was Joseph, Gabriel. I didn't take that note, so I could be wrong about that. But God does live in space, and all the angels speak like NASA engineers, which is just good. And they all have like, it's funny because I like the post-war stuff. Everybody has like letters to represent something. Like
right.
Clarence is an angel second class, like AS2, because like everybody's. When like 70% of the men have served in the military, like everybody's got like military lingo in their heads. Like all these movies coming out after the war is like that's how they just talk. The culture is just wrapped around the military, and so everything is the military. So then Clarence brings up he's reading Tom Sawyer, right, in heaven apparently, but that comes up. Tom Sawyer is kind of like a little Easter egg that Capper put in there.
I thought you were gonna explain what that book was, and I was about to be like, if you haven't read that book.
What? Tom Sawyer?
I thought you were about to explain what the book was, and not that it was just an Easter egg.
No, like, but it's definitely
read that book.
It's definitely significant. It's not that significant, but it's an Easter egg. That's the best way to explain it. And that comes up later. So then it's like, you're gonna have to go help this guy out. All these people are praying for him, and they're gonna send Clarence down. It's like, well, you gotta prepare. This is his mission briefing because everything's military, and so they're gonna watch.
Your mission, should you choose to
Should
accept
you?
it.
Yeah.
This star will self-destruct.
That star's already blown up. So it opens up. So it's like they're watching George's life in the past so that Clarence can have a good idea of who it is that he's helping and like the best way to help him. And of course, Clarence doesn't have his wings for some reason.
That's his entire motivation, which I think is one of the only things about this movie that kind of bothers me, is that even when he's helping him, all he cares about is getting his wings.
Yeah.
It's funny, but at the same time, it's like, okay, hold on.
You know, and admittedly, Clarence is the weakest part of the movie. Which is funny because they actually made a movie called Clarence after this, just about Clarence. But he's the weakest part of the movie, and you know, clearly angels are not our dead relatives. I hate to break that to everybody, but you're
some of the theology in this movie.
Yeah. So you know, this is like Americanized Christianity of cultural Christianity at
it really signals a turn to like Americanized nominal Christianity with the every time a bell rings, an angel gets its wings. The fact that he's like, I died in this robe, which indicates, oh, your relative becomes an angel.
You know, and this is the period, you know, like you have Santa becoming a thing. Coca-Cola now is like inseparably linked to Christmas and Santa Claus and polar bears and elves and all of this fantasy that people created and linked up to Christianity. That plays into Mayberry, the Andy Griffith Show. It's like, oh, everybody goes to church, but nobody really has any allegiance to the Lord. You know, they're all just kind of like, you just go to church because that's what good people do, but nobody really knows anything. Nobody's like studying, reading the Bible. Nobody's really applying the gospel to anything.
And that comes out in this movie too, because I think there's only 1 or 2 shots of a church, but it's like there because it like has to be there. Which like if they just didn't have it, it wouldn't bother me. But because it's like they just kind of have an outside shot of a church where it's like, hey, come pray for whatever problem's going on. It just feels shoehorned in there. But like it's not central to anything. It's just there. It just feels very nominal.
And you know, for all that, you know, even with all the weak theology and the weak Christianity vibes that are in the movie, by the end of the movie, it definitely has a strong, like, you can't help but be pulled into what's going on and see the connection to the gospel. So they're watching George, and so it's 1919. The boys of Mayberry, not boys of Bedford Falls. I mean, the boys of Bedford Falls. I was gonna count how many times you hear hee-haw in this movie, but this is the first hee-haw in the movie with Wainwright, and so they're sledding, and Harry ends up going into the water, and his brother just immediately springs into action, and you know, talk about wholesome. I mean, these boys are. What's the militarization of the thing? It's like George is in the thing. He's like, all right, men, like make a chain gang, and they all just like fall in line. And they know exactly what because they've got their contingency plans. You know, they got to look for the exits. Like everybody knows.
They need to know where the primary and secondary exits are, where the nearest window is.
They know if they say like, you know, start the buckets to put the fire out. They've been drilling this forever. You know, they got all that down. So then. You know, they're in the town. Apparently, George loses some of his hearing, and like all of this is happening like incredibly fast, right? And the hearing loss thing is explained. Like he got sick. He got an infection in his ear from saving his brother, and now he can't hear out of his one ear.
And it just comes across so matter of fact, makes it feel so normal and like a normal life.
Like, you know, this is like, oh, George, he saved his brother, he loses his hearing in his ear. The very next scene, the boys are like arm in arm. They're walking down the street, arm in arm, great friends, and they go into the soda shop. He hits the lighter thing, the lighter box
Wish
thing.
I had $1 million.
Wish I had $1 million. Hot dog. and so. They're setting up all these connections to this little boy who's George to who he's gonna be later in life, and then the girls are in there, the two main female characters being Violet and Mary, and they have their little interaction, and
You like every boy.
you like every boy, yeah. What a great scene. And then so Mary is like already like infatuated with George. Like she just thinks the world of George, and he doesn't even like. He's totally wrapped up in like, you don't want coconut. Like, don't you know where coconuts are from? Like, I'm gonna go all over the world and see all these great places and stuff like that. And he like bends over, and she's like, which one's your
Is
bum
this the
ear? And
ear
she's
you
like,
can't hear
she's
out
like,
of?
he's like this one. And then as soon as he like isn't paying attention, and he bends over, and she goes like, George Bailey, I'm gonna marry you someday. And he's just like completely oblivious to it, right? But then this whole scene in the soda shop, the drugstore, the drugstore, that's where people used to hang out at drugstores, right? And now if you hang out at a drugstore, you're gonna get arrested when you leave. So, but yeah, I mean, he's already like he's infatuated with travel, right? I mean, he's like he's already got like these visions of all these places in the world. Oh no, I wrote it down. I was like, she says, "I'll love you to the day I die." That's what she says.
I never really put two and two together that that's a soda shop / cigar lounge / drugstore.
Yeah. That's what
I never really
everything was
thought
happening.
about it.
Yeah, so it's Mr. Gower's drugstore. He's the druggist, and then it sets up this scene, which was always like my father always impressed on me, like what a big deal this scene was. That George sees the envelope with the notice that Mr. Gower's son has died, and it's the thing, you got to pay attention to these movies. Like it doesn't just slap you in the face and tell you this is what's happening. So if you miss the letter, like you're not going to realize what is going on. And so Gower's drinking, he's drunk, and he's distraught, and he ends up, long story, he puts poison in these people's medicine instead of the medicine that they were supposed to get, and George ends up, covering up the whole thing. What'd you think about that scene?
I've always liked that scene a lot. It's it just signals everything that happens throughout the rest of the film.
Yeah.
The fact that it gets brought up later with the whole Pottersville thing. But I mean, primarily just the fact that he goes and runs to his dad, and instead of going to
I wrote that down. Yep.
Instead of going to where he was supposed to deliver that.
Right. Yep.
He goes to his dad, which I guess if you were being a little nitpicky, you could be like, why didn't he go to like the police or something?
Well,
I mean, not the police in the sense of, oh my gosh, he nearly poisoned somebody,
yeah.
but like hey, I think he might need help.
Yeah. But he's like, I got to go find out. I need advice. Like, he's like, I don't know what to do.
Right. Dad always knows.
Dad knows best, that. So he gives that kind of deference to his father, and of course, it's a mistake, right? Then you've got this that kind of takes a pause, and you got this scene with the building alone. Let's talk about another character in the movie that isn't really it's not a person, but the building alone is like is definitely a love-hate relationship for George with the building alone.
Building alone is almost in itself symbolizing just Bedford Falls too.
Oh yeah,
because he keeps getting stuck there.
Yeah, that's why he's there in Bedford Falls. An interesting thing, Uncle Billy calls him Captain Cook. He calls George Captain Cook. So like he wants to be the explorer, right? And this is the first time that we see Potter, right? So Potter, and they're having this argument about the building alone, where they're going to keep the institution open, or and Potter's like, what is the matter with you people? You're just giving loans out to people that can't pay you back. This is ridiculous. I'm not making any money here. And it's like, I know it's not a board situation. He's just talking to George's dad, and he's like, you're giving out dumb loans, and he's like, oh, I can't foreclose on these people. They have children. And Potter says, they're not my children.
Right.
He's such a good bad guy, but like totally set him up as the villain in the movie. So George heads back, doesn't really get an answer from his dad because his dad's busy. But he has that scene where he's like, oh, yeah, you're not half the man my dad is, you know. So like we already got George, this little boy, button heads with this, like, the guy that owns the town, you know, is the wealthiest man in town, and already he's like can't stand Potter at all. So he heads back to Mr. Gower, and you remember what happens next? What?
Oh yeah, he. I don't remember whether he tells him he didn't deliver it first, because I know he like smacks him for not delivering it.
Yep.
And then he goes, "But you put poison in it," and then he tastes the poison, which I've always found kind of hilarious. That it's like, you put poison in it, and he's like, "Oh, let me just
and like,
ingest the poison."
Like, and so here it is. We're like 5, maybe 8 minutes into the movie, and we're already beating kids in a drugstore, right? It's like,
and ingesting poison.
Merry Christmas, everybody. The guy's son dies. He's drunk. And
we know this movie isn't as funny as Schindler's List.
No. It's definitely funnier than Marmaduke. But so now the guy is beating this 11, 12-year-old boy and smacking him around while he's drinking. And then when he finally figures out what he's doing, he's like beside himself in tears. And the old guy, he does like a great performance. I mean, like, he knocks it out of the park. Like, he's just so
just
incredibly.
Like the kid.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The kid's great.
The kid
I mean,
right out of the park.
Yeah. And he's like bleeding out of his ear. It's his bad ear. He's like smacking. He's bleeding out of his ear. He's like, "Don't hit me again." You know, it's shocking. It's like, it's so dark and shocking already in this movie. And then he's just incredibly apologetic. He's so sorry. But then you had this. It's such a great scene because now you set up George's integrity. Even though he's getting smacked around, the whole time he's getting smacked around, and he's like, "Mr. Gower, you don't know what you're doing. I know you don't mean this. I know you don't mean to hit me. Like, I know that, you know, you're distraught about your son. I know you didn't mean to put the poison in there. I know it was a mistake." And like Gower's just so sorry that he didn't listen to George. And then George, unprompted, he's like, "I'm never gonna tell anybody. I'm going to take this to my grave. I'm never, ever going to tell anybody about this ever." Like, because now it's not just like, they're obviously both incredibly emotional about like what just happened between the two of them. But George is concerned for his reputation, for Mr. Gower, you know, that like, it was just a mistake, and it was something that could like destroy him as a, see, right? So you've got this mistake that happened that could destroy your reputation and destroy your life. But George's character comes in and shines through. Right. And then it's like, boom, like, kid stuff is done. And now here we are, like, George is an adult. He does this, like, all right, I can't do the shot. He's like, I want a big suitcase, you know, like this, you know, and then like, and
a very, very Jimmy Stewart shot.
Yep. And so he wants the luggage, and the guy pulls out the big old suitcase, and who ends up buying him the suitcase? Do you remember?
Is it Mr. Gower?
Yeah, Mr. Gower. So Mr. Gower ends up buying all George's luggage for his big trip that he's gonna go on, and he's like, "Hot dog," you know. He likes saying hot dog. Leaves that place, and then you've got these two characters that show up in the movie, the cop and the taxi cab driver. I feel like I'm quizzing you. Do you remember what their names were?
I do not.
So
I know that they're the characters that come back up later, but
oh yeah, they're in the whole movie. Yep. and they're his friends in the town. They're not the friends that he grew up with, but they're the guys that he sees all the time. The cab driver and the cop, right? And their names are Bert and Ernie.
Oh yeah.
So that's where we get Bert and Ernie from in Sesame Street. So Bert and Ernie are there. Bert the cop and Ernie the cab driver, and they're George's friends in town. And now you've got Violet shows up, and the three of them are standing there like staring at Violet because she's just a knockout, right? And she's just like literally stopping traffic. And they're like that. He's like, "Hey, that's some dress you got on." It's like, "Oh, this thing. This is what I wear when I don't have anything else to wear.
When I don't care what I'm wearing.
When I don't care what I'm wearing, yeah." And she's played by the same actress. I don't know if you ever saw Oklahoma, the musical.
I have once.
Okay, but she plays the character Ada Annie in Oklahoma, and she's gorgeous in that too. And then Bert the cop gives this great line. They're like, "Oh, okay, like let's get out of here."
I gotta go see what the wife is doing.
Yeah. Oh, my camera cut out. Oh, of course it did. All right, you got to carry us, Noah.
Yeah.
There we are. I'm good. All right. I forgot I could just do that right on the laptop. I need this camera keeps cutting out, but yeah, I gotta go see what the wife is doing. I'm glad you picked up on that. That's a really good line. So then George he heads home, and apparently it's
What's the line that sets up that I gotta go see what the wife is doing? Isn't it like you want to get in and we can like go follow her or whatever? Like
no,
imply
they
that
were all gonna go somewhere together. I forget, and it was like take a ride in Ernie's cab, and he's like, I gotta go see what the wife is doing. Violet got to him. So then you got this scene. George is at home. You see his mother and his father, and now you see Harry as an adult. And George is, I think he's 4 years older than Harry, and he's already graduated from high school, which is funny because like Jimmy Stewart's a grown man. He's like fought in war and everything.
He's like clearly in his 30s.
Playing like a 23-year-old. Yeah. And so they have this great conversation, and his father, they're talking about Potter, and they're talking about the building a loan, and his father says about Potter, he says, Potter's sick in his mind and he's sick in his soul. He's sick in his mind and he's sick in his soul. And that really comes across with Potter. This guy is wicked. But we see that a lot in the world. We see a lot of times we wonder like, why are people doing the things that they're doing? Like what motivates people? And it's like they're sick in their mind and they're sick in their soul. They're a lot like Potter. He's I forget what sets it up, but he says to George that he was born. He says something about Harry and did I act like that when I was a kid? And he's like, oh yeah, sorta. And he's like, but you were born older, George. Like, well, no kidding, right? Yeah, he was definitely born older. But anyway, I mean, it's like I'm like picking apart like every little piece of the movie, but it's like there's so much information like jam packed about who George is in all these little scenes. So you've got now George's character, you've got his desire to go travel, and now you got him talking to his father about like, man, like Dad, like I don't want to be stuck in this crummy office doing the building alone thing. He's like, I want to build skyscrapers and I want to do big
I'm gonna
things.
build bridges and
And stuff
the
like
world.
that. Yeah, and go around the world and stuff like that. He wants to build, right? And build is a big word right now, especially with the post-mill crowd out there. Like everybody's talking about like
And with the back and better crowd.
oh yeah, because they're building things. These people's whole lives have been built around deconstruction, and now they're telling us they want to build back better. Like, get real. But his father says an interesting thing about like the building alone being a thing. He's like, we are doing a big thing. We're helping people own a home. We're helping a man start and have his own four walls, have his own castle, a place that he can call his own, right? And it's weird to think about, being like offering loans to be like, how's that helping anybody? Like, but it does help. You give your friend a loan to help him in a tough spot, and that's what this building a loan is doing as like I guess as a mortgage company technically, and helping people to be able to afford something they wouldn't be able to, in their whole lifetime. It would take their whole life to be able to afford a house like that. But I remember a lot of times in churches, Christians would talk about like how can I serve the Lord with what I'm doing? Like if I'm not doing ministry, what is it that I'm doing that's helping anybody? What am I doing that's furthering the kingdom at all? And I remember talking to one guy who was like in sales, and it's like, how, like, I'm in sales. Like, how does this do anything at all? And it's like, well, do you believe that your product is worth buying? Is it a good investment? Is it something that you believe in? Like, yeah. Okay. Well, then you're helping people make a good choice in buying the product. Like it's not terrible. You're not trying to trick anybody,
Right.
Like if you actually believe it, if you actually believe in the product, you're not doing anything wrong by helping people buy something that's going to be a benefit to their life. Do you believe that this product is something that's good for them? Well, then by all means, help them make that decision. Not a problem, and you can do that for the furtherance of the kingdom. No issue there. You're helping somebody else build their business, like everything's moving forward. And George, but he only sees bridges and skyscrapers and big things, right? So the next thing we got the party. We got the dance scene over the pool. It's 1928 now, so it's like 9 years after the accident, falling into the lake, and it's the first time George sees Mary, and that's a good shot. You remember that? What's going on there?
Yeah. I love how it. All you can see when it shows her is just nothing but her, and then it's like dark around her.
Yep. And he, like, when he sees her, he's just like stopped dead in his tracks. And he's like, Mary, I'm gonna dance with her, like little girl, like in his mind. Hey, Georgie, dance with my kid sister. And then she's talking to that Alfred E. Newman looking dude. He's like, so what I was saying in my story.
It's just that meme where the guys at the show, the like baseball thing with the girl, and he's got his arm like around her neck, and he's like,
oh yeah. It's just like. I was thinking about that meme, the like poorly drawn cartoon where like the people are like dancing, and there's like some like loser sitting in the corner.
That one where he's like, I bet they don't know that.
Yeah, I bet they don't know how good I am with a bow staff. And this nerd is just going on and on and on in her ear.
So anyway, my story.
Yeah, and Jimmy Stewart comes walking up. George Bailey's like 6'8" or however tall James Stewart is, and he's just like towering over both of them, and like he's just like drawn to her, and she just can't take her eyes off him, and it's almost like he just like took his hand and just stuffed it in the guy's face and just pushed him away.
He was 6'3".
He was 6'3". he just seems huge. and
Everyone
everything.
else was like 4 foot tall.
Yeah. They're all theater nerds anyway. So this guy's like, hey, that was my girl.
Why don't you stop annoying people?
Yeah. So that sets up the whole thing with the pool, the floor opening up, and the guy he's like, I gotta get back at George, and it's a great scene. Just everybody just jumping in the water. It's like this prank has happened, and everybody's just jumping in the water, and the principal's like, like don't do it, and then he's like, what the heck? He just jumps in. It's like, and I'm just like, that's such a great scene because like everybody's so super cool about it. Even the guys that made the prank, they jump in the water. Like everybody's having a blast. Everybody's having a good time.
I remember making the comment to Jenna the first time I saw the movie. It was like, well, I guess you could do that when you didn't just carry a phone everywhere, and maybe if you don't have a wallet in your pocket,
right?
You'd just be like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah. Or if everybody just doesn't hate each other all the time and is constantly looking for a reason to get each other in trouble or throw each other on the bus, where it's like somebody would do this, and then it's like, oh, this was really dangerous. They have to go. We got to put these people. They have to be charges of being brought up, and somebody call the fire department and the police because this kid got injured. It's like everybody's like, okay, the floor opened up. Let's jump in and swim around, So okay, so I call this the Buffalo Gals scene, right? So they're walking down the street. Buffalo Gals, won't you come out tonight? Won't you come out tonight? And this is one of the more important scenes, I think, in the whole movie. They stop and they're.
I think after this scene, you've stopped setup and you've moved into the rest of the...
Yeah. This is like the beginning, and this is, see if you follow with me. This is where I liken Mary. This sounds so weird. I liken Mary to Gandalf. This is where Mary is like Gandalf in this, because Gandalf to me, he's not omniscient, right? And he's not like really a prophet, but
he's just incredibly wise.
He's very wise, and it's like he's like a person that knows the scriptures really well. And even though he doesn't know what's going to happen in the future, he's got a good idea. And he knows enough about, what is it, the old ones in the
right,
yeah. He knows enough about the old ones to know how they kind of operate, and so like if you're a person who knows scripture and you don't know what's going to happen in the future, but you know what God is like, and you know how
people are,
and you know how things kind of work out, and you know the way God operates in things. If you've studied like how God operates in dealing with Israel or the various miracles he performed, it's like, okay, like this is kind of the way things are going to go. Like, so Gandalf is like, he gives this ring to the weakest people in Middle Earth, and it's like, go take the, it's like he's putting his hope in essentially like, this is how the old ones operate. This goofy, silly hobbit is going to be the thing that destroys Sauron. Like, hilarious. Like, like and God's kind of like that, you look at Gideon or something, it's like, okay, we're going to trim the army down to 300 men, and it's like, we're going to go at them with torches and pots, and like that's how we're gonna get, and God's gonna get all the glory. It's not gonna be this massive show of power, but
he defeats sin and death by dying.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, right.
It's redemptive
Hilarious,
reversals
right?
all the time.
Yeah. So now the reason why I say that about Mary is because like Mary doesn't know what's gonna happen in the future. She's not a prophet. She doesn't see the future, but Mary has a good idea of how this is all gonna go, right? Even from when you see her little girl, like she's like she gets it. Like she loves George. She wants to marry George, and she knows George is character, and it's like, I want to go. So he's like, I know what I'm gonna do next year, the year after that. I'm gonna, you know,
I know what I'm gonna do tomorrow.
Tomorrow, everything is like, wow, like talk about biblical, like, pride,
Come now, you who say, tomorrow we will go into such and such a town
Right.
and conduct business.
Yep, yeah, that's what I wrote here. Yeah, yeah, and he's like, I'm gonna shake off the dirt of this town. I'm gonna go out in the world, right? And she's listening to him. He's like, this is my wish. He's smashing the glass of the house, and it's like, and she just is listening to this, and it's like, yeah, okay, George, whatever, because not because. So she makes a wish.
Well, what's interesting is while he's listing all the things that he wished for, you see her face drop.
Right.
And then she grabs a rock.
Yep.
And
Yep. So she makes a wish, and he's like, "What'd you wish for?" And she's like, "Buffalo gals, won't you come out tonight?" And he like smiles, and it's like, "Hey, what did you do? Would you you counter wished my wish?" But so she does, but she gets it. Like, regardless of what George thinks he wants to do, she knows George's character. And so there are like these, to quote Sullivan Ballou from the Civil War, it was like these mighty cords like drawing him back to Bedford Falls, because all the decisions he's going to have to make revolve around the character of who he is. So like, while he wants to go do these things out in the world, he's determined to do the right thing anyway, which is essentially like the whole rest of like the middle part of the movie is
right.
George doing the right thing. Interesting thing, the old guy is like, "Why don't you kiss her instead of talking her to death?"
What, you want me to kiss her?
Yes. That guy is the mayor of Mayberry. the first mayor of Mayberry. So, they have the interesting thing where he steps on her robe.
Found ourselves in an interesting situation here. I'll call the cops. Oh, they'd be on my side of this.
Not every day a man finds himself in a situation like this.
I could sell tickets.
Yeah. So, so all of his dreams, he's got ready to go. She makes this counter wish, but then the car drives up and Uncle Billy's there, and it's like his old man dies, right? And you see Mary looking on as he's like, "Oh, Mary, like, sorry, like I gotta go right now. See you later." Throws her a robe, and she looks on, and it's like, I'm wondering, it's like, does she think like, oh no, I just wish that he would stay home, and now his dad has died. Like, I
love how they don't address that at all.
Nope.
Like, because it makes you wonder the whole time whether her wish killed his dad.
Yeah.
Because it seems like the right time and everything, because you got another 5 minutes, which is how long it would take for them to get to him.
Right. But it's like I was saying about that Gandalf thing, where it's like, immediately there's this situation now in George's life where it's like he's presented with this thing that he has to do the right thing. And while a minute ago she was very smug about it, like, oh, like, you think you're going to do all these things, but you're such a good guy, you're going to do the right thing. And then it's like, oh, but doing the right thing actually really hurts a lot of times. It's not like...
doing the right thing also requires a bad thing to have happened.
Yeah. So then you've got Potter again. The board is wanting to get rid of the building alone, and Potter just wants to, vote to dissolve the whole thing. And George is like, he's in mourning. They got the armband on thing, and he just like, he gives this speech, and he just like reams Potter out, and he's talking about how like important the building alone is to the community, and like this Potter guy owns practically everything, and this is like the last piece of the town that he doesn't own, and then Potter's just like, yeah, whatever, he's just yawning, and then George says, you're a warped, frustrated old man. and Potter goes like sentimental hogwash, you know, he's like bah humbug, you know, he's the Scrooge that never he's the Scrooge that doesn't get his redemption story, right? So great shot scene when he leaves. They're like, oh, it's great news. Like they voted, you know, we're gonna keep the building alone. Everything's great. And they're like, oh, but it's like, and he's like ready to walk out the door. It's like, but one condition is like, they want you to stay on as executive and executive secretary, and he's like, I can't, you know, like I gotta go. This is like
my last chance.
Yeah,
you hear?
last chance to go. I'm going to college. Like this is it. And he's like, but George, they'll vote with Potter otherwise. And like, boom, the music kicks in, and
there's no sound, like no score at all.
No, none.
That.
Yeah, and then it's just goosh, you know. This anvil drops down right on the whole scene, and
it ends at the same time.
Yeah, yep. So then so like what happens? Like George does the right thing, right? I mean, he's tied to the building alone. He has to do it. So then the next time you see George is that at the train station, Harry's coming. Harry gets to go to college, right? So the money that would have gone for George to go to college, now Harry has gone off to school. Harry gets off the train and he's already married. Like can you imagine, like, you're the older brother, like 4 years older, and like you didn't get to go on your boat trip. You didn't get to go to college. You know, like all these different things that keep happening and keep sucking you back into the situation. And at the same time, your younger brother gets to do everything that you want to do.
He starts dating someone and gets married without telling anyone in the family.
Yeah. Nobody knows. And, you know, and this girl's a knockout too, right? And she's gorgeous and she's chipper and she seems like she's a blast to be around and she's a peach. And then it's like she's like, oh, you know, my dad offered him a job, and it's like, bomb. The anvil drops again. Harry's not going to take over the building alone, but you know, Harry's a good guy. Like I used to. There was a guy I grew up with at my church. He had like everything. He was like quarterback. You know, he was good looking, tall quarterback guy. You know, and like really popular dude at school and everything. And to make matters worse, he was really nice too. You know, it was awful. It's like you would just like love to hate him, like a 80s villain or something like that with the sweater tied around his neck or something. No, he was a really cool guy. He was a really nice guy, which just made it worse. He was just better than me in everything. But Harry's a really good guy. He's like, oh, George, like that job thing's not serious. Like, you know, I'm gonna stay. I'm gonna take the responsibility and everything. And then George kind of interrogates the fiance or the wife.
Tell me about this job.
He's like, oh, it's a good job. There's a lot of upward mobility, and my dad really loves him. He's just a genius at research and stuff like that. It'll be a great future. And he's like, okay. And it's like, you know, like, what's gonna happen? It's like, now you know, like Mary knows, like George's gonna do the right thing. He's gonna stay at the building alone again. So next really powerful scene, the wedding happens, stuff like that. George is frustrated, takes out the travel brochures, throws them in the bushes, smoking his cigarette, ticked off, you know, just 'cause the whole situation, you know. And his mother's trying to convince him, why don't you go see Mary? Why don't you go?
Oh, I love how he's before that though, like when he's talking to the guy who's drunk, and he's
Uncle Billy.
Yeah, and he's like, now where's my hat? And he's like, here you go. Takes it off his
Takes
head.
it off his head and hands
And
it.
he's like,
Oh,
which one? The metal one.
The middle.
But then he's like, wait, can you point me in the right direction? And he goes that way, right? And then he falls into the trash cans and everything. It's like, I'm all right. But then when he talks to his mom and he's like, can you just point me in the right direction?
Yeah. Oh, good to pick up on that. I didn't even think about that.
And it's the other way. It's the other way, but then he goes the wrong way.
Yeah. Oh, I don't know what's happened here. We've lost all the cameras. Everything's falling apart. Everything has fallen to pieces. I do not know why this is happening. Driving me crazy. Let's see. Oh, finally. All right. So that one worked. I need better cameras. Like ASAP. Yay! We're back. So, well, I didn't pick up on that. I didn't pick up
Right.
on the direction. I knew there was something to it, but
Right, because he points him in the one way, and then he falls into the trash cans, and she points him the other way, and then he walks that way for a second,
Wow.
and then just walks right back the other direction.
Yeah. Wow, good pickup. So, but where does he go? He goes into town. He doesn't go to Mary's.
Right, because he goes the wrong way.
Yeah. And there was another hee-haw in there.
Oh, somewhere.
His mother says hee-haw because he's talking about Wainwright is dating Mary apparently. And Sam Wainwright, one of my favorite characters. And
I love how much you really want to hate him at first.
I love Sam. He is so awesome. But yeah, you're right. You do want to hate him. And you got that scene with Violet, and he's like, let's go. We'll go take our shoes off and walk around in the grass, and then we'll climb up the mountain, and we'll stay up there all night and watch the sun come up. And it's like, Violet doesn't care about any of this nonsense. You know, she's looking for a good time.
It's just funny though, because it's like the most like girly thing that he says, "Let's go do."
Yeah, well, he's a romantic. I mean, like that's what he wants. You know, he wants to travel and stuff like that. He wants to have experiences. You know,
Walk in the grass in my bare feet. Are you crazy?
yeah. So then the second most another really important scene. He goes to Mary's house. He finally ends up there. He's walking around, and she's like kind of waiting for him. She's got everything set up. She's got the music. She's got the painting. She painted for him. He's like, "You ever gonna come in?" And he's like, "I guess so," you know. And he's just being a massive jerk. He's being incredibly rude.
He's like convincing himself out of being there.
Yes, yeah. Like he doesn't want to be there. He's acting like he doesn't want to be there, and you know, he's just being a massive jerk, and he's crapping all over everything that she's doing. Like
Just some kind of joke.
Some kind of joke, huh? You know, the painting. Somebody's like, "Do you want to come in and sit down?" He's like, "Well, I don't want to be rude." Yeah. Like all he's doing is being rude. Her mother just wants him out of there. She likes the fact that she's dating Sam Wainwright, who's like already got his career and everything. But this scene is just like, it's so intense and it's so passionate. And, you know, he's angry, but he's like, he loves this girl, and they're just confused and they're desperate. And then Sam Wainwright calls.
What are you trying to do? Take my girl?
Yeah.
Meanwhile,
He's got another broad with him. Yeah. Hee-haw. He does again. He's like, "Come on, George, got to get into plastics." He's like, Sam's looking out for George, right? Sam is his childhood buddy. He's looking out for George. He's like, "Hey, I hit it big. You gave me a good idea about the soybeans. I want to bring you in on the ground floor in plastics.
What
this
a
is
soy boy."
Huge." Yeah. But this is big. We're gonna make a ton of money, and the whole thing is going right through one ear and right out the other with both Mary and George, because they're on the phone together. They're face to face, and they're not hearing anything that Sam is saying. Nothing. And then he just says, he's like, tell him, Mary, tell him it's the chance of a lifetime. And she looks him dead in the eyes. She's like, he says it's the chance of a lifetime. And then he like slams the phone down and he grabs her by the shoulders, like shaking her, and he's like, do you understand? I want to do what I want to do, you know? And he's just like, he's yelling at her, and he's so angry because like,
I don't want a certain kind of floor. I don't.
yeah, you know, like, I don't want any floor. I don't want anything. I don't want anything. Like, I want to do what I want to do. And then they just start making out right there, and her mother's appalled. But like, what a weird thing. Like, he's such a jerk in this scene. He's so angry and he's so wrapped up. It's just like all these emotions just come like flying out of Jimmy Stewart. He just plays it fantastically, and then of course, you know, they get married. It's raining, of course, you know, because George Bailey's kind of like Charlie Brown. Everything goes wrong for for George. It's gonna be raining. Then there's the run on the bank. Depression comes. They have to cancel their honeymoon. There's that great scene with this shot. He's running down the street at Bedford Falls, and the camera pans and it turns. You see these like vertical lines of the people standing there, just like, and he's just got like him in his lighter colored suit. They're all wearing like these black raincoats and stuff like that. But they save the building alone with all their money, and then Bert and Ernie set them up with their honeymoon suite, which is all really good scenes.
The interesting thing there, though, is like how he saves the building and loan by giving out his own money.
Yeah.
But what's interesting about that too is he's already done that with his brother. He's already given his brother all the money to go to college.
Yep.
And he's just doing it again.
Yeah.
And I mean, but even just with the bank run thing, because that comes up with the director's movies, he talks about that kind of thing a lot. What's interesting, like he clearly was never, I don't think he was trying to say, I think this kind of banking is wrong, but he was trying to ask questions about whether the ethics of having, like running a perpetually bankrupt business is really a good idea.
Yeah.
Because then when this happens, when everyone needs their money at once and, well, you can't give it to them because you don't have a cent in the building.
Right.
Really.
Right. Yeah. And, well, there was a lot of mistakes that they made back then.
Right.
And we're making a lot of those same mistakes now.
Right.
But then you have this turn. It seems like things are kind of doing well. George and Mary are helping the Martinis move into their new home. George has kind of like built his own Levittown. That's exactly what it looks like.
It does.
Yeah, it's Levittown. So he's got his Bailey Park, and the skies are bright. And there's kids running around just like Levittown.
Just like.
Yeah, the Martinis are moving in. He's like, I own this house. You know, he's got his goat. They take the goat with him.
Oh, I thought it was funny that he's like, I'll take the kids in the car, and then the goat gets in the car.
Yeah, the goat.
It's a kid.
It's a kid. Yeah. Yeah. So Sam Wainwright shows up. Hee-haw. In his fancy car with a driver and everything, and his wife or whatever she is, she's got like
or whatever she is.
She's got this mink coat on and everything. Like, we're just gonna jaunt down to Florida, no biggie. You know, why don't you guys come with us? You know, just kick off, and you don't need any of this stuff. And so they take off, and George's like, I can't get away from the office and everything. And then he kicks his car, you know, because it's like, I told this guy he should get into plastics, and he turned me down flat. So he goes from there to...
you don't have to rub it in, Sam.
Yeah, right? Even though Sam is, you know, really a good friend. Potter then offers him a job, right? So this is like you've got Satan's temptation now in the desert, right? It's not really the desert for George. Things are looking well for George. That the reason why Potter's offering him the job is because things are going so well for him. That's what the their engineer guy tells him. He's like, oh, someday this guy's gonna be working for George Bailey, and and so Potter's like, I gotta buy this kid out.
What's interesting too about that is that George Bailey's whole struggle is internal with his, I want to go and build bridges, I want to go and be famous, I want to go and do this other thing.
Right.
And I don't want to be stuck in this town. and he's like, I want to go make money. Potter is the embodiment of what he wants to do.
Yep.
And so Potter is the external villain of what's internal going on in George Bailey. And so he's just he's just tempting him with everything he wants to do.
Yeah. Yep. So offers him $20,000 a year. Trips to New York.
Drops his cigar.
It's like, what are you making? 40 a week? 45. So he's almost got him.
If only our money was still worth that much, though.
I know, right? But he's almost got George. He gets him to the point that he shakes his hand. And the minute he shakes Potter's hand, that's when George knows. He's like, ew. He's like clammy and slimy. And he's like, what am I doing?
I don't need to go ask and talk to the wife about this.
Well, he said that before, but the great scene with his chair down, right? Is like Potter sits up way high like this, you know, and George is like in this chair that's like a foot shorter. It's like you sit around here.
It's basically a divot in the floor.
Yeah, and you spin your little webs, and he gets home after turning down Potter, after having the bad day with Sam Wainwright, and sees the picture of the moon, and they run through all the lines of the movie, and he's like thinking about his life, and lays down with Mary, and he says, why in the world would you ever marry a guy like me? He's just like racked with doubt about himself, like total doubt about it. I mean, so there's something, I have a bad day, like I ask Amy that too. It's like, why did you ever marry me? Like, what in the world were you thinking, you know? And she just says,
you clearly got the short end of this stick.
Yeah. She just says, you know, you could have married any man in town. You could have married Sam Wainwright. She says, I didn't want to marry anybody else in town. And of course, she very cleverly reveals to him that she's pregnant. You know, and then it's like, boom. Like, the story just goes, doesn't really dwell too much on the kids. It's like one kid after another. I think they have 4 kids by the time you see them grown up. But then you see Mary, she's building the house, right? She's very industrious, right? She's a Proverbs 31 woman if there ever was one, right? She's just building that house. She's that old house they were throwing rocks at. And it's like, wow, it's like, that's the house she said she wanted to live in. He's like, that house stinks. You don't want to live in there. And that's exactly where they are, right? Because she knew better. And then you get the good scene. He's walking up the stairs, and there's that knob on the staircase. And it keeps coming off as he goes up the stairs, and he has to slam it back down. They're setting that up, you know, for later. And then war. So they have about 1 minute of World War II only lasts about a minute in this movie. So
you remember that thing?
Yeah. Remember the one from World War II? They run through like everything they did. Potter, this is great. Potter runs the draft board. I think that's fantastic. Like, who else like would run the draft board? Like, everybody hates the guy running the draft board. Anybody, because they're like pulling their sons from their families, you know.
He like just pulls everybody. He's like, yeah.
1A. Harry's a war hero, of course. George can't fight because of his ear, so Potter can't even get rid of him by sending him off to his death. He's still stuck home, right? It was like, this is Groundhog Day, right? This is like, he can't leave. He has to stay here in Puxatawney or whatever that town is in Pennsylvania. And but it's cool because in real life, Stuart is Harry. Stuart's the war hero, right? He really fought, okay? And then it's over. So World War II is just done. VE Day, VJ Day. And
I think that's where the shot of the church is, because they're like praying for that.
Oh yeah. They cried and prayed. And so now it's present day. It's you got this whole movie, and And now it's present day, and this is where like the movie just starts to take off like a shot. And so the big thing set up is that Harry's coming home, and he's the hero. All the eyes are on the Bailey family right now because he's getting the Congressional Medal of Honor. He's already gotten it. He's coming home. His hero's welcome, and Uncle Billy loses $8,000 by handing it to Potter because he had to taunt Potter.
In that day's money too.
In that day's like $8,000. Remember, it's like he was offering him $20,000 a year, offering George $20,000 a year.
At least 8,001 today.
Yeah, at least.
At least.
Yep. And so, it's just such a tough scene. George is screaming at Uncle Billy, calling him an idiot and a fool, and he's like, somebody's going to prison, and it's not even like, you know what this means?
That's the best line in like almost any movie ever.
Yeah.
You know what this means?
Means bankruptcy and scandal and prison.
One of us is going to jail, and it's not gonna be me.
And all of this is happening around like George is giving Violet money. So, like, he's giving him essentially, he doesn't even know he's broke, and he's giving Violet money so she can go to New York. Gets home, doesn't have his hat, doesn't have his coat. He's like distraught, and he sits down, and his youngest son, and he just starts hugging his son in like a panic. I mean, like squeezing his son. And the whole time this scene is happening at home, Hark the Herald Angels Sing is being played in the background by his daughter Janice. Dun, 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 the whole time. And just everything. It's all these beautiful scenes of a family, and George is just not having any of it.
I keep playing that silly song.
His children are being respectful, and they're like fawning over him, and they want to tell him things, and they want to do it, and he's just frustrated and furious. And then he's getting more and more frustrated. He goes up the stairs, the knob comes off. He looks like he's ready to like throw it
out the window and make a wish.
Yeah. Then he flips out on the teacher for he's really good with.
That's such a funny.
Yeah, he's really good with. He was like, what do you think? Maybe my kids don't have as nice clothes as the rest of the kids or something. Is that enough reason to make him walk home from school half naked? Or like Mary's on the front, was like, oh, she'll be fine. She'll be ready tomorrow. She'll be all healthy tomorrow. Not a big deal. He's like, oh, she's like half dead already. Like everybody's gonna get pneumonia because you killed all my kids. So then the other.
Then the husband calls.
Yeah. He's like, anytime, buddy. Anytime, anywhere. So then he flips out.
It's like the biggest dad thing ever.
Yeah.
Like, that's my kid.
Yeah.
Angry about work, so take it out on somebody else.
Smashes his models, essentially smashing his dreams. He's furious at all that. Like, why did I waste all that? Because like everything, it's like his family can take him away from it for about like 2 seconds before he comes back to the realization of this massive screw up at work, and the panic that he's feeling and the guilt that he's feeling about everything going on with that, and then he's taking it out on his family like in a really scary way. Like he's just smashing things and he's flipping out on them. Like, can't you tell her to shut up? And
he's at this point already gone to Potter to ask for money, who then says, I'm going to send a warrant out for your arrest.
No, that happens right after this.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Huh. I thought he already knew that the cops were coming.
No. So, yeah, he scares his family, and Janice at the piano is like, oh, Daddy. And it's like, as soon as she says that, he's just like mortified with himself and just runs away. And at that point, it's like Mary is on the phone. It's like calling everybody, like, pray for George. Everybody go pray for George. Pray for George. And the kids are like,
me too.
Can we pray for Daddy too? And it's like, yes, very hard. Go pray for Daddy. Daddy needs your help. Daddy needs your prayers. and which essentially brings us to the beginning of the movie, where everybody's praying for George. While everybody is petitioning the Lord for help, George then
Basically
decides
going to the devil.
to go to Egypt,
Right.
right? And what happened here? Did I touch them? And so he's going down to Egypt, and Potter's like, why don't you talk to your riffraff friends? Why don't you call your buddy Sam Wainwright? And of course, Sam's can't get in touch with Sam. Sam's in Europe. Sam can't help. And then you come back to, you once called me a warped, frustrated old man. He remembered that.
What a grudge.
Remember, he was yawning, right? It didn't matter to him, anything George was saying, but he remembered it. He remembered the insult. And then Potter gives that line, George, you're worth more dead than alive, which sets in to motion George's thought to end his life, because if he ends his life, the $15,000 of his life insurance policy will cover the loss that they've had, and he can get out of the situation. Then he goes to, there's like this little interlude where he goes to Martini's bar, drinking. Of course, Martini's he gets in a fight with the teacher's husband, who happens to be right next to him.
Wait, what did you say that guy's name was?
Yeah, George Bailey. This is my friend, George Bailey. Wham! Just decks him. And he's like, oh, apparently that's what I get for praying, And Martini's great. He's like, you'll get out of here. You don't hit on my best friend. He's like, Martini's like, George Bailey is my best friend. He helped me buy this house. You get out of here. I don't care that George is upset. I don't care what anything else is going on. You're in the wrong. I'm taking my friend's side no matter what, right? So George leaves. He goes to the bridge, and Clarence comes onto the scene, and it was a clever way to save George, because what's George going to do? George is going to do the right thing, right? So
he's drowning just like his brother was.
Yeah, yep. So of course George jumps in to save Clarence instead of committing suicide, and they have their little, and that's where I stopped taking notes, but they have their little interesting scene.
And it ends there. It goes,
yeah. And they have their little interesting scene there in the booth on the bridge. Clarence he's not even trying to hide. He's like, oh, I'm an angel. Like, what? And the guy's flipping out. So then we have the twist, the M. Night Shyamalan twist in the movie with Clarence. Now, so this is where Tom Sawyer comes in, because Clarence essentially makes it so that George is never born, right? George says, I wish I was never born. Clarence says, fine. Yep, you're never born. You got it. And so now...
and then God gets angry.
Yeah. He didn't have to be so dramatic about it, yeah. And so now George gets to see what the world is going to be like with him not existing. And Tom Sawyer in the book does what that's similar to that. Do you remember?
I have not read that book in years.
So
I read that book for school when I was
I think Tom and Huck, they get to see their own funerals.
Oh, yeah.
And hear what everybody has to say about them, right? So now George has a similar situation. He now gets to see what the world is going to be like without him, and what and of course everything has gone. It's like Back to the Future too, with the McFly situation at the high school never happens, and Biff runs everything, and he's got control of the whole town, and he's like the wealthiest, most powerful man in the world and everything.
Biffersville.
So you got now Bedford Falls is Potterville, and George is like slowly going insane. Now he goes to Martini's. Martini's not there. Mr. Gower's a drunk. He's the guy that killed the the family by poisoning them, and
Or just the kid, I think. He killed some kid by poisoning him.
Yep. And that guy Nick, he doesn't know who George is. Like, get out of my bar, you bum! And like just Clarence is making an idiot out of everything. Oh, I'm giving out wings, like, and you fruitcake, get out of here, get out of my bar. I love the accents in this movie.
I love how he asks for a particular drink, and he's like, "Now listen here,
a mulled wine." Yeah, we serve hard drinks to hard men. And out the window, out the door, don't care. And so they leave there, and George is like slowly starting to get the idea, like this is Crazyville, like it's practically Las Vegas now. There's like nude girl shows everywhere.
It's
like,
not quite as debauched as Las Vegas.
But it's a scene now. It's like there's a party scene going on in Bedford Falls now, and Potter runs
Trouble
everything.
right here in River City.
Oh yeah, yep. And Violet's getting arrested. She's out off her rocker. Mary's an old maid. Her mother is like this old hag, and she's like running this boarding house for loose women or something. And then it just gets so incredibly intense when he confronts Mary, and he's like, Mary! And she's like terrified, and he's like reaching out for her, and he's just freaking
Chases
out.
her down the street.
Yeah. And then Bert comes, and Ernie's involved, and Ernie's like, this guy's a nut, like, gonna get this guy, and they shoot at him. And then
I love that because he doesn't even aim. He just
blam! Hey, everybody, get out of the way! Bow, bow,
well, what's
bow,
great
bow.
is he goes bang, and then they cut to what he was like, to him running, and there's just people everywhere. So he doesn't aim; he just draws the gun and goes bang.
Right. So just like real life.
Yeah.
And
pretty much.
So everything's just going awful. And then what happened? He runs back to the bridge, right?
First he runs to the house, right?
Oh, that's right. Yeah, he runs back to the house. And Clarence is like, they're not here. Like, your kids aren't here.
He gets taken there by Ernie. Then he he goes to see Mary.
Yeah, Mary's over there, and that's where people are like, "Oh, this was so unethical. He was probably suffering from PTSD and everything." I'm like, I don't know if there's any evidence of that, but it's definitely like super intense. It's really well played by Jimmy Stewart and her, and it's like he just wants back everything that he had. Like all the things that he thought were like Bedford Falls is gone. The building alone is gone. His wife is gone. His children no longer exist. Everything that he takes for granted.
No pedals in the pocket.
No, yeah, Zuzu's pedals are gone, right? And so then he's back on the bridge, and he's praying to God again. Of course, he was praying in the bar earlier, right? He's like, Lord, like, I don't, like, I'm like at the end of my rope, like I don't know what to do, like, please help me, God, like I'm so down. And
we can't forget about Potter's Field though.
Oh yeah,
was that Bailey Park? Was that Potter's
Field?
Yeah,
that's now Potter's Field. Yeah, well, Potter's Field was the name of the development that Potter had even previously, and then Harry dies as a young boy, and of course George doesn't exist. And he's like, no, that's a lie. Harry saved all the men. And like, nope, all those guys died because Harry wasn't there to save them. Like, there wouldn't be another pilot in the plane. I don't know, but it's like everything that these people did, like nobody else picked up the slack. And it just shows him like what an impact he had on everybody around him. So, now he's praying on the bridge, and Bert comes to get him, and he's like, Bert, like, get back, I'll deck you again. He was like, George, what are you talking about? I've been looking all over town for you. I was like, wait, would you call me George? Like, And he's like, Zuzu's pedals, Zuzu's pedals. So his life is back, and we were talking about Alistair Sim, having
Isn't
this.
it great? I'm going to jail.
Yeah, I'm going to prison. Yeah, yay!
It just always makes me think. Have you ever seen the video where the people are in New Orleans and they're just filming the Mardi Gras thing, and then the guy walks up to the camera and he's like, "I'm going to jail."
I've never seen that one. But Alistair Sim as Scrooge, and it's like he has this like 180 transformation, and obviously George isn't Scrooge, but now it's like everything that he's seeing with new eyes. It's like he's like, "Merry Christmas, Bedford Falls! Merry Christmas, you old building alone! Merry Christmas!" He's just yelling, "Merry Christmas!" Like, Merry
Inanimate objects
Yeah, and he's just
that were actual characters in the film.
and he's like all the way in town, and he's yelling for his wife, like, "Mary, Mary!" He's like wanting his wife, and finally gets in the house, and it is the greatest thing about this movie. I mean, this movie's just ramping up to this event, and it's just like it's like the Hallelujah chorus happening now. It's so glorious, and he gets into the house, and Mary, they've all been out looking for him, and he's like, "Just clear the table. All these people are coming. Everybody, the whole town." He's like, "Oh, you're not gonna believe it, George. Mary called the whole town. All she said was, George is in trouble. George is in trouble." Everybody went,
No questions asked.
"No questions asked." Yeah, exactly. Just, what do you mean George is in trouble? How much does he need? Let me write a check. Here's the money. No problem. Don't even need to know what it is. Whatever it is, got to be a misunderstanding. The house is packed. What a fantastic scene. Harry comes in. I mean, you got the people are just dumping money in, and you've like all these characters you saw throughout the whole movie. Mr. Gower, Mr. Martini, like I broke open the jukebox, like dumping all the money in, the guys that work for Potter, the bank examiner, everybody's putting money in, all these people are just like pitching in to help George, and he doesn't realize how many people love him, and like I cry I cry every time I watch this scene. Every time. It doesn't matter. Like I'm not immune to it at all. Like it doesn't matter how many times I've seen this movie. I think this time I'm gonna watch It's a Wonderful Life and I'm not gonna cry. And then I do every time. Like I'm getting choked up right now. But I don't know if
It's
you
hard
have
to watch that scene and not cry.
and I don't know if you have a situation in your life where you relate to this or not, but when I got stabbed and after I came out of surgery and everything, and then like people were showing me, like I was getting like all these cards and stuff from the kids and youth group and stuff, and like all the people at church, and it's like, and people were telling me stories like, "Oh my gosh, like we heard of this," and then like people are sending me money, and they're just sending like my family money, and they're setting up funds for us and stuff, and
I remember the night you got stabbed too, like clear in my memory, which is probably one of the few memories that like from how there's just memories randomly that kind of stick out to you. Some of them are just for no reason whatsoever, and some of them are because something traumatic happened. We were all at Randy and Ramona's Bible study.
Oh yeah.
And like somehow someone contacted Randy and or Ramona, and like they just stopped what we were doing, and we all prayed for you that like right then, because it was like, oh my gosh, like what in the world just happened?
Yeah.
So like that's
so I remember distinctly thinking about George Bailey while I was in the hospital. Like I was like, this is like what George, like I remember telling people, like I feel like George Bailey. I feel like this awful thing happened to me, and all these people that whether I take them for granted or not, like all these people love me. It's an overwhelming feeling to feel. You often hear people in a struggle, and like later on you're like, you don't know how much it meant to know that everybody was praying for me, that like I could feel the weight of people's prayers and people's concern for me. So anyway, yeah, like this scene would hit me even before I got stabbed. Like like just the idea to think about it, and George didn't really cause the mess that happened. He didn't do anything to make it bad, but his reputation's on the line. Like, he's thinking about all the bad things that are going to, and then of course his reaction to it wasn't great. He was mistreating his family throughout it, things like that. But everybody coming to him, and then the Sam Wainwright calls, like like I was saying about how Sam Wainwright is like my favorite character
for $25,000 or whatever.
When like you were saying, like the whole time you're like, oh, Sam would be such an easy guy to hate, and then it's like Sam Wainwright wired. He says, heard George is in trouble. My office is wiring in advance of $25,000
in like 1947.
Wainwright has no clue what's going on. All he knows is like, heard George was in trouble. I'm sending over more money than he's ever going to need to get out of this situation. Because I love him. And it's like, and I just want the best for him. And hee-haw, Merry Christmas. And I'm like, and like you've been hearing this stupid hee-haw thing the whole time.
Right.
And that's where I lose it. I as soon as like, hee-haw, Merry Christmas, stop, whatever, however the line goes. And that's when I generally start crying. If I make it through that, I'm not going to make it through Harry's speech. Because like Harry comes through, he's the Congressional Medal of Honor winner. And he goes over, he's like, to my brother George, the richest man in town. And everybody goes, hey, and they all roar. And it's like, if you can manage to not shed a tear, like you have no soul. You're probably not a Christian, and you really need help, because like that is just such an incredibly amazing line to say about somebody who's been thinking about his reputation and the money and everything like that, and his younger brother is like boy, if you had any idea how much everybody respects you and has appreciation for you, so. That's my 2-hour synopsis of
right
of It's a Wonderful Life, and why I think it might be one of the greatest movies ever made. I don't know. What do you think?
I mean, I think everyone has. I mean, I hope everyone has a moment like that to relate to George Bailey there. Like a few years ago, when my mom had a heart attack, and everyone that day there was over 50 people in that waiting room with my family.
Yeah.
And the nurses were telling us we've never seen this many people come out because someone had a heart attack or anything happened at all. And like it was so. I mean, after a couple hours, we knew she was going to be okay, but it was still like emotional because every like 10 minutes there's another group of people showing up.
Sure.
And just those people like showing up and being there and like, are you okay? How can I help you right now?
Yeah.
Like just that would get to me every single time that someone came to be like, hey, I'm going to bring you food. Do you need food now, or can I bring you food like tomorrow, or like
so much food? We had so much food.
Yeah, you and Tyler Stanhope brought us Chick-fil-A.
Yeah.
And then later in that day, my friend Daniel, who worked at Chick-fil-A, brought us more Chick-fil-A.
It's so funny when you say that about like the staff of the hospital, and I'm thinking like, you've never seen this before?
I know, that's what was so sad about it.
That's so weird.
But I think part of it was because there was like, I think it was maybe all at once. There was like 50 people in that waiting room with us all at once. Yeah. And I think that might be what they were saying. But either way, like it's just still like that's sad if that has never happened at that hospital before, where someone has a heart attack.
I think it's kind of shocking. Like, while it's like, this is like I had this George Bailey moment. In one respect, I'm like, well, I don't. Like, what else would I've had? Like, I do know that there are a lot of people that love me. Like, and getting stabbed is a huge thing, and people were shocked by it. And of course, people Like, that's why my wife always jokes, like, I'm literally on the stretcher before I'm going to go into the operating room, and I'm racked in pain. I'm screaming. All I want to do is die because the pain is so bad. And I tell my wife, tell everybody on Facebook. And she's like, Facebook is like, well, like, that was the only thing I could think to, like, get the word out to people because I wanted people to pray for me, right? I was like, tell Facebook, make sure, put it on Facebook so everybody knows what's going on. And she's still teasing me about that today. But it's like,
I need my social media clout.
right, but that's why I did it, because like I knew that the people were gonna support me. Like, obviously, like, I wasn't shocked by that entirely. I was shocked by the weight of it. I guess really, but
you know people care for you, but when
Yeah.
people actually
It,
show
like,
it,
actually
it
happens,
like
yeah.
hits you differently
Right,
than like,
right.
oh yeah, because before it's just like a mental, like, yeah, of course, like I care for them and I'd be there for them,
right.
so
You
of course
take it,
they'd be there for me.
you take it for granted.
But like, yeah,
Yeah.
and then when someone shows it to you, it's like,
Right.
it's like overwhelming.
Yeah. But that, and for both of us, it's like that's having a church. Like, that's
Right.
having a Christian community of people. I always remember growing up walking around the mall with my friends, and it would be like every 5 minutes I'm running into somebody else, and I'm seeing, like, oh, hey Mr. So, and my friends were like, how do you know all these people? Where are all the, like, old people? Like, why do you know old people? And I'm like, what, you don't know people? Like, I don't know. Like, this is weird, Like, we just went out to for like a Christmas dinner for my jiu-jitsu people. Our coach paid for dinner for all of us at the Iron Hill Brewery, and like, I ran into the one guy who was the waiter. Like, I knew him from like the bowling alley, and then when we left, we were looking for somebody to take a picture, and my friend Pat from high school, who I've been talking on Facebook recently, and I see him. He lives in Newtown. I see him walking into the Iron Hill Brewery, and like, literally, we're just up there, and like, there wasn't anybody else around to help us take a picture together. And he comes walking up, and I just, like, nonchalant as anything, I was like, hey Pat, do you think you could take a picture right here? Here's my phone, Pat. And like, everybody's like, oh, no, like, who is this guy? You know this guy too? I'm like, yeah, I know people. Why?
I know everybody. Like,
Yeah.
don't worry about it.
And even then, it's like, even being there in another town, like, far away from my town, and like, I probably knew other people in the Iron Hill Brewery that I just didn't happen to see. But a lot of people, like, they just don't know anybody. Like, they know their very small circle of people, another thing. And that's what, like, in a church, you get to know not your peers. You get to know older people and younger people. Like, I know like all the, like, the youth group kids and stuff like that, Sunday school kids that I've taught, like parents of those kids, or like like older people. It's like, people just don't have any interactions with older people. That was, my friends were always confused. Like, how do you know that old guy?
Right, right.
How do you not know old guys?
That's what's like beautiful about like home groups and everything too.
Yeah.
Like, the home group that Jenna and I are part of is one that has people that we're the youngest people in it, but then there's seminary students that are not that much older than us, and then there's people that are pushing their late 80s, and so it just spans that range, and so it's just so wonderful to have something like that where everyone just cares about each other, and to see the problems that come up with, like, for me, the past couple times, because we do prayer requests every time, and the stuff for me has always been like, I've got a lot of stress because of school.
Yeah.
But then to see someone else who's like, yeah, so my husband has Alzheimer's and is in a care facility because he doesn't know me, and like, he's violent when he sees people that he feels like he should know but he can't, and they're not taking care of him well, and so I hope that you pray for him. And it's like, I feel like I don't have any problems compared to you. Like,
yeah. Well, and then on top of that, not only then you're invested in praying and caring for somebody else, but when you get to that point,
right,
you're not going to be shocked out of your wits that this, like, a lot of times tough things happen to people, and they're just like, I can't believe this is happening to me. How in the world could this happen? Like, or like, really tough things will happen to people, and then they'll just abandon any faith in the Lord because they're like, I can't believe God would let this happen to me or anything like that. And it's like,
He seems to let it to happen. To
yeah,
everybody,
like let happen to other people, like, you know, and being in
you're not the main character, so like,
yeah, and just being in a small group with other Christians, and especially of different generations, it's like you get to see and be a part of those struggles of life that you're like, okay, well, like these are the things that Christians go through in the world, and dealing with the sin in the world, and dealing with the consequences of that, and I'm just gonna have to be ready to deal with that and meet those challenges as a Christian, and not as like a fearful non-Christian, like as somebody who has no hope, right? Mourning
Right.
as somebody who has no hope, like we don't mourn that way. But this is 2 hours and 15 minutes. So if you've hung with us this long, thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed our conversation about Christmas movies and It's a Wonderful Life.
Conversation about It's a Wonderful Life was longer than It's a Wonderful Life.
It might have been, but it's that good of a movie. If you haven't seen the movie, shame on you, and shame on you for going this far through the movie without having seen it.
Tyler.
So, Tyler, I hope I'm only talking to people who have seen the movie. But Merry Christmas to everybody. Hopefully we'll see you again in 2 weeks, and maybe we'll talk about something unrelated to movies. We'll see. But movies are a good topic. I like talking about movies. I don't know about you. But all right. We will see you later.